It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy and Rene are here, and we're going to parse Tim Cook's comments last night on the stage at WSJ.D. We'll also talk about the Apple patent lawsuit. They lost, and why they lost, and why Intel is working on chips for the iPhone, or is it? All that's coming up next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust. This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 477, recorded Tuesday, October 20th, 2015. Passion without mania. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Lynda.com, the online learning platform with over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, technology, and creative skills. For a free 10-day trial, visit lynda.com/MacBreak. That's LYNDA.com/MacBreak. And by LegalZoom. If you're looking to incorporate, form an LLC, get a trademark, or more, LegalZoom can help you get started the right way. LegalZoom's not a law firm, but they can connect you with an independent attorney. Visit LegalZoom.com and use the offer code MBW in the referral box at checkout for your special discount. And by Audible.com. To download the free audiobook of your choice, go to audible.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news. The Oktoberfest edition. It's Apple news. It's Andy Ihnatko here from Canada. No, it's just his hat.
We're all Canadian today.
We are, aren't we?
Yes.
Andy is at the Chicago Sun-Times, which is practically Canada. It has Canadian weather.
It's closer to Canada than
California.
Arizona, definitely.
Yeah. Hey, that's also an actual Canadian cited, Mr. Rene Ritchie.
I just want to assure our American friends that the Liberal Party in Canada is not using the word the same way that you folks usually
We
do.
should understand that. The true liberals are the Socialist Party, the GDP, not GDP, NDP.
The NDP, National Democratic Party.
Those are the real liberals.
Yeah, we're odd. And in Quebec, the Liberals is the far right because we have two levels of socialism left of them, so it gets complicated.
You have Greens, too.
Well, we have the Liberals, and we have the Quebec Party, and then we have the people who thought the Quebec Party wasn't socialist enough, so they made the new Socialist Party.
Very funny.
I think it's adorable that you're trying to make Americans who don't even care about our own elections care about some foreign election.
68% voter turnout. If that doesn't shame us, I don't know what will.
And our campaigns are like 2 months.
78
days.
Longest
in history. Yeah,
the longest in history.
Well, be fair. I think a lot of those people are just voting to go inside and be warm.
Yes.
For how long it takes to get to actually vote.
They put a little hut out on the ice.
With Tim Hortons coffee inside, can't go wrong.
Anyway, it's great to have you both, and it's great to talk about Apple. And I guess probably the main thing we should talk about is last night, and I'm not talking about the election. I'm talking about Tim Cook on the stage at the Wall Street Journal.
I thought it was the Star Wars trailer you were going to talk about.
Oh, and that. Here in America, those of us watching American football, was really strange. The Sunday Night Football, which is one of the big games. It's like hockey night in Canada, just to put it in perspective for you. They made a big deal in the whole first half. Coming at the halftime, we had a halftime show, the Star Wars trailer.
Can you believe Tim Cook made a bunch of announcements when everyone was watching the Star Wars trailer?
Come on, Tim.
It seems like poor timing.
Actually, it was precise timing, I guess, because some of the announcements were not super good. What?
He was probably watching the trailer on his Apple Watch.
That's probably it. Refused to talk about Apple Watch sales. But he did say that we sold more in the second quarter than we sold in the first, or the second, I guess second quarter of the first, and we expect to sell more in the third than we sold in the second, that kind of thing. Sales are going up, in other words.
Now, do you believe what he said about how we're not going to give sales figures because that's valuable information to
competition,
our competitors?
Well,
it is a brand new category, and that would indicate here's how much money there is out there for people who actually are interested in this product. But you do notice that they've never. It seems as though when something is a clear runaway success, they're not willing to deny their competition news about how many pre-orders of the new iPhone there were.
Yeah.
I guess. He said, though, that he regrets it. Like he said that if he were to do it over again, he regrets that they were so open and candid about iPhone and iPad. And I think under his watch, he wants to keep that stuff closer to the vest.
Well, it's really a no-win for him, isn't it?
They're the only company that does it. I mean, very few other some companies will hint at sell in, but not sell through.
Microsoft does the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and Apple's really the only one who puts their numbers out there quarter over quarter, and he may not think there's a benefit to it.
He's probably right. I mean, it's a no-win because if it doesn't do, if the number's not big, that's bad, and if the number is big, people said, yeah, well, so of course
it's not bigger than last time,
right? But how was it? Yeah, so you can't, and of course, Apple mostly does it when it's the biggest ever, right? Probably shouldn't give out numbers, but maybe they have to with the Apple Music because they have stakeholders, the record labels. 6.5 million paying subscribers, 15 million users, that is free, more than half free. Compare that to Spotify, which has 20 million paying users. It's not bad. It's a lot better than the Beats platform, which they bought, which had 110,000 subscribers.
Particularly when you factor in how young the service is. Spotify has had years to build up this base, and it was also there was also no real Spotify in the mix when Spotify got launched. Whereas Apple is brand new, Apple Music is brand new, and it also is competing against a product that people who, and it seems as though anybody who is really, really interested in subscription music has already found Spotify, or failing that, Google Music. So I don't think this is a failure by any means. 60%
conversion factor. If you take Eddie Q on his word in August that there were 11 million trial users. But you got to ask how many of those people are people who forgot to switch it off after the trial ended.
Out of hundreds of millions of iOS users, too, how big is that number?
Right. I'm sure that Apple wanted that number to be bigger and hopes it'll be bigger. Do they have to reveal this because part of what's going on is a public relations campaign with Taylor Swift and the labels and, convincing them that this is a platform you want to give exclusives to and be on? That number does not.
I don't know. I was curious that he would actually give out the number. And some people said that because it is everyone is doing it. Everyone knows these services. It's all the same music catalog.
Right.
It's everyone in the space that if they didn't, it'd be apparent that they weren't doing it.
Right.
Whereas with the watch, no one else is doing that sort of information.
Right. Sorry, Monday Night Football, not Sunday Night Football. Thank you.
All the same, you have to know that you can't believe that Tim Cook said anything during that he was not prepared and planning to say. So I have to believe that he planned to release that number. He did not plan to release the Apple Watch number, and a lot of that has to be tactical.
Exactly. So that's what we're trying to analyze: is what are the tactics here? Why? He also, and I guess this is probably I probably buried the lead. The biggest thing is Apple TV will start shipping at the end of next week, and you'll be able to take pre-orders this coming Monday.
And internationally, I don't know about every country, but it's more than U.S. too. Like I'll be able to order it in Canada, which it doesn't sound like a big thing, but most set-top boxes don't do that.
Yeah, of course. I'll get it online. I don't have to get up at midnight on Sunday night. I don't know. He said that linear viewing of television. This is a term I've only recently learned. Linear is where you watch a show, one show, then another show, and another show, like TV. He says that is disappearing, and the current TV watching experience has outlived its usefulness. The Apple TV, with its ability to search across various streaming services and interact with apps. I think the search across services is very strong. Has quote, developed an infrastructure to fix a terrible, broken thing that none of us like.
Yeah, there's a story going around that Apple was going to create basically a TV channel and force you to watch ads. And if you listen to Tim Cook's comments, it's the opposite of that.
Yeah. The starting gun, he says, has been fired. That's Apple right there. Nobody did anything until he does it, right? Until Apple does it.
Waving the red banner of revolution, leading the people to victory and to freedom.
So I also get the feeling Tim Cook probably doesn't sit down of a Friday night and watch a lot of TV.
It was strange not seeing Mossberg do that interview because that was the Wall Street Journal staple for years. Yeah.
And no red chairs either. They took those with them.
That's all at
White.
D or Verge or wherever that is now.
White. It's all part of
Recode.
Part of Recode now. No, but Recode's part of Vox.
Verge. Yeah, Vox.
Yep. So it's all very confusing. The media landscape. The starting gun has been fired. They're all racing to the finish. He also did not say, he said, I declined, according to the Wall Street Journal, he declined to address Apple's interest in building an electric car. I hope he did say, in fact, I decline to address that. He says he sees a massive change coming up in the mobile industry. The automobile industry as a major technology shift the sector away from today's combustion engine focus. Must mean
Fusion.
Fusion
drive.
Mr. Yep. Fusion.
It's right ear for it.
By the way, okay, I'm wearing an Apple Watch, but my Android Wear does have a flux capacitor watch face on it.
Nifty.
That has a Dymo label that says, protect eyes when don't look into the flux capacitor. I'll be wearing that tomorrow, October 21st, the official Back to the Future day. He says he sees, I'm quoting from the Journal again, software, electrification, and autonomous driving technology is playing a crucial role in cars of the future. Here's the quote. That industry is at an inflection point for massive change, not just evolutionary change. Does kind of imply he spent a lot of time thinking about this, and that maybe the starting gun has been fired on this one as well.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that we're not even necessarily talking about revolution in cars as a consumer item. We might be talking about cars as a service, where so many people that don't necessarily need to have a car in their driveway 24/7 might want to avail themselves of driverless taxis and the ability to sort of segue an entire city, public transit from bus systems that may or may not work to the ability to have cars on demand. That's a pretty big opportunity that almost everybody's trying to look at right now.
Yeah. By the way, do you read anything into it that this conference from the Wall Street Journal is WSJD? What would Steve Jobs do? Do you read anything into that at all? No. Okay.
Coincidence.
Coinciding. But I can't help but looking at it and thinking, what would Steve Jobs do? I'm sorry, but that's what I see when I see WSJD. I don't know why. That's just what it's in there. So I guess you can you watch the video of this, or is this just?
You should be able. They usually put it up eventually.
Yeah, here it is. Yeah. He spoke with the editor-in-chief of the Journal, Gerard Baker. Not quite a Walt Mossberg.
Yeah.
Walt's got to be just miffed. And the chairs, I'm sorry, these white canvas director's chairs, that's cheap looking.
Should have gone with purple or blue or something.
Something distinctive.
Okay, but don't you? Did you ever look up to see exactly how much those red chairs cost?
Oh no, are they pricey?
They are $2,200. They are $2,200, $2,300 chairs.
Wow. But you know what? They're smart, because that's really become the trademark. And I think it's so funny that Walt and Kara just said, "Hey, are you going to? Can we take those? You're not going to use those, are you? We'll just take those chairs with us. You don't mind?" And the Journal said, "No, yeah, we don't want those. We have white canvas director's chairs.
Got chairs in the cafeteria we can bring.
We'll just pull these out. That's fine." All right. Is there anything else? The runway here is really good, says Tim Cook of Apple Music. The runway here is really good. That means we could get bigger. That's a really great CEO way of saying there's a little bit of an upside to having 6.5 million subscribers.
Better than the cliff in front of us is really deep.
Well, when a CEO talks about runway, they're acknowledging they haven't actually taken off yet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so somebody's saying Cook didn't really say that watch sales were going up quarter over quarter. He made a joke that they were. I don't know the distinction. I have to watch the video.
Yeah, I have to watch it too.
So that's a problem. If you read a transcript and it just says that, but you don't understand that he was like, nudge, nudge, they're going up every quarter, wink, wink. Maybe not.
Historically, they're high at launch and high at, well, not historically.
You'd expect that, right?
The watch is new. But for an Apple product, they're big at launch and then big over the holidays, which is coming up.
Right. I'm sorry, but I I don't see a lot of people wearing Apple Watches, and I just don't feel like that's not that it needed to be. I mean, it's fine. But are you wearing an Apple Watch? No. Are you watchless? And these are people who watch MacBreak Weekly. I'm wearing an Apple Watch.
I'm wearing an Apple.
But I often wonder why.
Nice. Rose gold.
Did he mention the Hermes? Hermes?
Senerity's reviewing the Doubler Tour right now.
She is. Lucky girl. Did she buy one?
No, we got one because they weren't available in Boston. They were only available in a few cities. And one of the few benefits of having our office in Miami is that they had it for.
Of course, they have it in Miami. Of course.
Yeah, they sold out. At least the ones that my boss wanted sold out within minutes. I think he wanted the cuff one, and that was gone. I think the first 3 people
sold off. Those. Just tell him not. Yeah. No, do not. Do not.
He's a Hermes collector already. He buys the bracelets normally. All right. So
okay.
It's not people like us, Leo.
People were also talking about Tim Cook's appearance in a debate with the director of the NSA. Was this? I'm confused. This isn't. So minutes after NSA Director Michael Rogers said there needs to be a balance between safeguarding user privacy and our ability, the NSA says, to identify security threats, Tim Cook said absolutely not. Cook said you can't have a backdoor in the software because you can't have a backdoor that's only for the good guys. Right on. Strong encryption. Go ahead.
They asked him about a police state too, and he made a very similar comment about that. That that's is even in a hypothetical world, if there was a police state, if you can't get into something, you can't get into something. It's the only absolute that matters.
At the conference, Rogers said, "Strong encryption is in our nation's best interests." That's not what I said. Security encryption, good. The ability. This is very cryptic. Security encryption, good. The ability to generate insights as to criminal behavior and threats to our nation's security, also good. Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Cook's response, I guess it wasn't a head-to-head debate. Cook came right after Rogers. Cook said, nobody should have to decide privacy and security. We should be smart enough to do both. Any compromise is a cop-out. Both of these things were essential parts of our Constitution. It didn't say it prioritizes this one above all of these. I mean, these guys are really smart folks, says Tim Cook. And they held all of these things and said all of these are what it means to be an American. It become increasingly more important to more and more people over time as they realize that intimate parts of their lives are in the open and being used for all sorts of things. I mean, this is, of course, one of Apple's real strengths. It's also, in some ways, one of Apple's weaknesses is this support for privacy. And I only say it's a weakness because they're faced with companies like Facebook and Google who will use what they know about you to give you information that some people appreciate, like the Google.
And extra services and features that Apple can't duplicate without using that information.
Yeah. I should add Microsoft to that list because now, of course, Microsoft does the same thing on Windows 10, which has raised the hackles of privacy advocates like Steve Gibson. I, for one, wish to give all my information to our overlords.
I just like that we have options. If everyone did the same thing, we'd have no ability to choose, but that companies take different approaches, and you can consider Microsoft maybe a bit of a middle ground.
Yeah,
you can choose which one's best for you.
Although I think Google is starting to respond to this, maybe over-respond, because they took out of Chrome, the latest version of Chrome, the ability to talk to it, and the Google Now feature that would show you your Google Now information is no longer in Chrome. And I have to think that that's maybe in a response to to privacy advocates.
Well, wasn't it for a while? It was triggering unintentionally, like it was enabling itself.
Yeah. All this stuff triggers itself unintentionally, doesn't it?
Well, maybe they're just fixing it and it'll come back.
Don't say Alexa, or you're going to get raise the ire of the Amazon Echo owners. Don't say, hey, Shlomo.
I think they're also having a problem with microphone access, and they need to fine-tune that a little bit.
Maybe that's it. I also think that there were a lot of people saying, hey, that means you're listening to my computer? No.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's better in a phone than it is in a computer. But
yeah, I think Google has an ongoing problem with that. There's just like Apple for a while had a problem with people just assuming that, well, this is an Apple product. It doesn't run MS-DOS, doesn't run Windows, and therefore it can't be used for business stuff. Or I'm not going to trust it implicitly because of that.
Right.
And I think that Google's running the same thing. I mean, I've got the new Nexus phones, and I'm at my coffee shop, and I'm about to say, oh, that's right, I need to set this up with a password for the Wi-Fi of this coffee shop. And then no, because I use the feature where it just simply says, please just duplicate all the things that I need, and it's all set up for all my hotspots, all set up for everything like that. And I like that because that's super convenient. But a lot of people would say that, wow, you mean that you somewhere on a server that I don't control, there's the passwords to my Wi-Fi.
Google has your Wi-Fi passwords. Yeah,
and you're sending cars driving around street after street after street. Is this a good thing? Maybe not.
Come on. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah. How do you like those new phones? You got to the review units on Friday?
Yeah, I got both of them, and I like them a lot so far. This morning was actually my first time like out with the Nexus 6P. The camera looks pretty good so far. They're built really, really nicely. You get used to the fingerprint reader in the back because, of course, I can't stop like just trying to activate it by touching here.
I have to retrain my thumb.
But it's cool to be able to simply take it out of your pocket and your finger just goes here while you're moving it up to your face, and by the time it's up to your face, it's unlocked and ready to go. Really, really great stuff. I mean, this might be the best Android phone I've ever used.
Yeah, that's what seems to be the consensus. Jason Howell has a couple. He's going to review the 6P for before you buy it. I guess Miriam Schwar got the 5X to review.
Yeah, we'll cover them both.
Yeah,
and then I'll spend more time with the 5X.
And tonight, I want them all about Android. Yeah.
Yeah, we're showing those off, and then we're also showing off, and apropos
M9.
To this show, yeah.
Do you have an M9?
A9. It's the A9. Miriam will be bringing it in.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Looks a little bit like an iPhone.
This points up the difficulty Apple has because once a year they come up with a new phone, and there's nobody who disagrees that the new iPhone 6S and 6S Plus are superb, arguably the best smartphone made, but the spotlight shifts very rapidly nowadays, and there's always something new. And I don't know if I guess consumers really at this point the decision is iOS or Android, and then if you've decided Android, then you have to make all these other choices.
Yeah, but it's like Rene said earlier. I'm so glad that it used to be that all the superlatives belonged to the iPhone, and the superlatives of the only superlatives of the Android were philosophical ones, and now you can get superbly built phones running an operating system that's really pretty and really easy to use. And now there are so many phones that have really great cameras too, and that's not a case of anybody falling behind or not innovating. Again, it's a case where now you can simply ask yourself, what phone do I what kind of features are important to me, and then get that thing, and maybe even choose between 2 or 3 instances of that thing.
I do wish we still had alternatives. I was going to say I wish that Palm and BlackBerry were still around, and I forgot that Windows Phone was still around. But I wish that we had stronger 3 and 4. We had
3's better than 2. Still. You bet.
Yeah,
you bet.
Absolutely.
It'd be nice to have the choice.
But let's just assign some of the blame for that. If Google decided that they're going to start supporting Windows Phone with apps, it would still be a third, but it wouldn't be a distant third. I think it's stupid that Google is saying that no, we're not going to do anything with Windows Phone.
Right.
Well, for a company that prides itself on being everywhere, it is so blatantly not there.
Netflix is on board, Kindle is on board, Hulu is on board, Evernote is on board. The only major player that is not on board is Google, and that is deeply suspicious.
Yeah. Somebody's pointing out the new HTC phone pretty much looks like an iPhone.
I mean, I love HTC. I've loved HTC since the Trio Pro. I love their early Android designs. I like the character of their designs. I was talking about this with Jason before the show. I love the early Android because you had the Droid, which looked like a Corellian starship, and you had all this variety. And I wish we had this variety now, because I want to get an Android phone, but I don't want it to look like my iPhone. I want it to be a different phone, and it's getting harder now.
Yeah.
Well, but it's also hysterically funny because you see a lot of talk about people who are more design oriented on the Apple blogs making so much fun of this part of the Nexus 6 design that has this bar, this hump at the top of it to accommodate the larger sensor and the antennas and stuff like that. So I mean, it does look different. It is nice, but nonetheless, like we collectively we sometimes jump all over companies that try to do something that's not like minimalistic and not a Nordic sort of Norwegian woods sort of design.
Make a square passport. Everyone makes fun of you.
Yeah, that said, it's like one of the things I like about this is the case that Google sent me with the 5X.
Oh, that's the one I ordered. I love those spec cases.
I know. It's like I still miss this case off of my old iPhone. And it's like this is how close phones have become.
I know.
The fact that I can get the exact case that I like on this Android phone has just made me more likely to switch back to Android.
Isn't that funny? I have that case on my iPad Mini.
Oh man, they are so. This is like the greatest case.
They're
ever.
Grippy. They're good looking. They look a little bit like something out of Star Wars.
And also, it's like the only case one of the few cases I've seen that fits as well as an Apple case, where it's like space shuttle component tolerances. It fits so closely. I just don't like when there's any play whatsoever between a case and a phone.
Yeah, Spec makes that one. SPECK.
Yeah,
and they make a lot of kind of sleeve style phones, but that one in particular is a really good looking case. I wonder if they still make. Yeah, they still make it for this. They call it the candy shell grip.
Yeah,
baby. In any color you could imagine.
You put this. All I care about is you put this on the armrest of your sofa, and it's not going to fall off and break the screen on a tile floor.
Really? Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I ordered that on the. I noticed they had that for the 6P, and I ordered it. What was I gonna say? Oh well, I guess I'll move on. There was something about phones. Let's take a break. We'll come back more with Andy, Rene, and Apple News. I could show you my new case for my iPhone 6. This is kind of overkill.
Nice.
This is Pad and Quill. You've heard of them. They make these handmade leather cases. The thing about this is it makes the phone actually like much bigger. I can no longer fit it in my pocket, but it does look nice. I even got it monogrammed. And this is fake. This looks like you got a fake bookmark in there. And then it's wood. It's made out of wood. So it's kind of like a wallet case.
I wish if I wore suits more, I would totally own one of those things.
It's classy.
I love them. I've actually bought a couple of those things, like that wallet folio case. Yep. I want to be the sort of sophisticated, like James Bond sort of guy that can pull that off, but I can't. It just it's just like no. I just want to Evernote something. No, I just want to play Flappy Bird for a second.
I know. It's just the spec case is exactly what you want, right? It just doesn't get in the way. Yeah. Our show today brought to you by Lynda.com, the online learning platform we all love so much, and partly because so many of our friends make courses at Lynda.com. People like Bert Monroy and Ben Long, some of the best photographers, Photoshop experts, coders, software users. Lynda's great because they have over 3,000 courses. You subscribe to the whole site, so you get access to everything. So it's not like you have to declare your major when you sign up for Lynda.com. You can do anything you want. You can, brush up your Photoshop skills. You can get better at photography. You can get better at Microsoft Word. In fact, because they work with the publishers, they have courses already for Word for Mac 2016, for instance, up and running with Word for Mac 2016. They had that out day and date. Their courses on the new features in OS 10, El Capitan, and OS 10, El Capitan Essential Training, plus an overview of the newer features on iOS 9. So, there's Ben showing us how to learn to be a better photographer. If you want to learn, if you want to improve your hobbies, your business world, they even have business skills courses like avoiding burnout, managing conflict, and working remotely. There's just so much there that you'll probably be like me. You'll have 3 or 4 courses going at once. I've got a Lightroom course going right now. I'm starting to do a little coding with Swift. They've got some really great coding courses for brand new coders, which is nice. I like coding as a hobby. Body language for leaders. Isn't that great? Isn't that awesome? That's one of the business skills courses. Here's the deal. I'm going to give you 10 days so you can check it all out yourself. Lynda, lynda.com/MacBreak. You're going to get a free 10-day trial, and that means you have access to all 3,000 plus courses. You get the course transcripts so you can search for an answer and skip right to that point. You can download tutorials and watch them on the go, including access on your iOS or Android device. Learn at your own pace. Some people like to watch beginning to end. Some people are just like, I want a little nibble at a time. You can snack on them. I just love it. Sit tall. Claim your space. I love it. That's the body language for business. That's good. I should probably take that. Establishing leadership presence. And here I am hunched over my microphone. Lynda.com/MacBreak. There's so much there. Just take advantage of that 10-day trial and check it out. Speaking of El Capitan, somebody did a fun thing. He's both a lawyer and a coder, a programmer. And he actually read the license agreement. Something many of us don't do. Let me, Do I have it linked here on the rundown? I'm trying to find this article because I want to read you in plain English the El Capitan license.
He translates it for us?
He translates it. There's actually nothing really crazy in there, but some things that maybe you didn't know. This is, here's a link from 9 to 5 Mac. I can...
You're required to climb El Capitan once during your usage of the program.
It's Rob Schechter who did this on the Rob report, ROBB report. And he says, I decided to upgrade my Mac to El Capitan, but my computer said, on one condition, I must carefully read and agree with something. It even provided a cozy display window for viewing it, where you get to see about 10 lines at a time, right? And I did what everyone else would. I cleared my afternoon schedule and got right down to business, reading carefully the entire document. Turns out I was much too pessimistic. I only needed 33 minutes. I should note, I'm an attorney with a good understanding of licensed trademark and copyright law. I'm also a software developer with 20 years experience. So your own read-through may take more or less time accordingly. So he broke it down into 22 points. So if you're curious what you've agreed to with the new OS X, I can't use, he calls it the captain, with illegal copy. He's translating it, right? With illegal copies of anyone's stuff. Apple doesn't sell me this software. They still own it. In fact, I'm just borrowing it. And if I install more Apple software, those are on loan as well. I can use the Captain in 2 virtual machines and on 1 computer, which is a weird thing to say since, of course, it's free.
Yep.
But there you have it. I think it's the VMs thing. But these VMs cannot be used for business. Who would use OS X in a virtual machine?
Server companies.
Okay. Okay. The only exception is for software developers. So if you're a server company and you had 1 machine and you had 20 instances of OS X, you'd have to license each one, I guess.
Yeah.
I've got to read the separate rules that come with the fonts and obey them. I'm only borrowing those fonts too.
But that VM limitation doesn't apply to admins, does it?
It says the only exception is for software developers.
That'd be really surprising. Because one of the biggest users of virtual machines are admins who like to create instances for every installation that they do.
I don't think Apple's going to come to your house.
Yeah, but it's
probably also
like
to thwart the Hackintosh market.
Well, there is a Hackintosh clause as well. I'll get to that in a moment.
But how would that affect a virtual machine, though? Hackintoshes are always about changing the bootloader so you can actually boot natively into it.
Right.
Or just running a bunch of Mac installations on your Windows
box PC, yeah.
box,
But I still, I don't. Can you do that?
I mean, I know.
Could you use VMware and run?
I think they don't let you. They artificially don't let you.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there was this would clobber on 2 instances that service that went up for a little while that allowed you to with a netbook or a Chromebook or a tablet. Use a virtualized copy of Windows 10 and Microsoft Office.
Right.
Excuse me, Windows.
Oh,
Windows
yeah,
8
you remember that?
Microsoft
Yeah.
Office.
And you could even do it on your iPad, which was cool.
Yeah.
Apple clobbered. I mean, Microsoft clobbered that, I believe.
But that would also be if it weren't handled by virtualization limitations, it would also be handled by you can't lease out this software for other people. Yeah. So
those cool number 7. Those cool voices for the clock. You may not use them in a remix.
Sorry,
Kanye. You rappers. I know that Jay-Z.
Kanye.
Yeah, Kanye's been eyeing them. Slideshows made with photo, same deal. Don't even think about using them for some commercial purpose. I still can't sell access to my Mac via any kind of screen sharing. There you go. So you can't lease out a Mac via screen sharing. I must run it on Apple hardware. That bans Hackintoshes. Yeah. I can't help anybody else Hackintosh. I can make 1 copy as a backup. Unnecessary, but okay. I can't try to figure out the source code to any of this. Can't reverse engineer it. I must follow all local laws while I'm using it. And he adds, really? Wherever I live? Because some of these local laws are weird. You may not use
hay
it
in the
with
back
a
of your
goat.
Macintosh.
Yep.
You may not use it while afloat.
You cannot use it in a car.
Cannot use it going far.
Can't use it in a bar.
I do not lack these software licenses, Sam. I am.
Please do not put El Capitan up your nose or any other opening.
Any orifice. I can leave software on the Mac if I sell it or give it away. I better not use anyone else's hacked version, though. Apple isn't responsible for my hurt feelings for anything I see on the web.
If you didn't like that Star Wars trailer, that's your tough
Your
luck.
problem. Don't come suing Apple. If I break any of these rules, the deal is over and I must immediately delete everything. El Capitan comes as is. I cannot send it to Sudan.
I cannot send it, Sam. I am.
I cannot operate a nuclear plant. I'm just waiting for the rhyme. Go ahead.
I was going to make a QNX joke, but even that is helpful.
And I do not think about it, just plain can't make money. And this is the one that worries me a little bit, from MPEG, H.264, or AVC videos I create. For that, I need to buy another something from somebody. So if I were to edit videos on my Mac and then put them out as, let's say, a podcast called MacBreak Weekly, is that in H.264 form, which we do, in fact, is that illegal? Does that violate the license?
Make sure you have a copy of X.264 on all your machines.
Wow. Well, we actually use Windows now, but I bet you, I wouldn't be surprised if the same clause is in Microsoft's.
Yeah, MPEG LA is not on our side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what that's all about, right? So that Apple's just kind of saying, hey, we don't have to pay you license fees. See, we explicitly prohibit this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if you want to sue 8 million El Capitan users individually,
Go
be
ahead.
our guest. You're
But
not going to sue us.
Don't come to us. Don't complain to us. Thank you, the Rob Report, for breaking that down.
Edificated.
Yeah. It's nothing really that you wouldn't expect, I think. But it's good to know. Apple has launched a new share class, is it a new class? Well, restricted stock units, RSUs.
It's a program they had for people that they wanted to retain, and now they're making it available to everybody. It's a new version of an existing program in much greater scope.
See, I'm so glad that I have Rene here, because he actually reads these articles.
Well, so one of the things that Apple has a problem with is retention, because other companies offer benefits Apple can't always match. For example, Apple needs a lot of people to work in Cupertino, and other companies will let you work remotely. Apple doesn't always pay the same amount as a startup. They don't have the same kind of IPO opportunities as a startup. So what they do is they grant stock that you can then later sell at certain intervals. And before they did that with people who they thought were key to the company, key engineers and system people that they really wanted to retain. But they're realizing that there's people all through the company, even the massive retail operation, that they want to give similar incentives to. So now this RSU program is broad and almost everybody can participate.
Good. It is harder for a company like Apple that is an old, in Silicon Valley terms, an old company, and doesn't have a stock that, well, of course, their stock's pretty valuable.
Yeah, but there are people who change jobs every 3 years just to get in on the hot startup that's going to sell or going to otherwise make a lot of money. And that's very tempting to a lot of people.
That's where the real growth is a company about to go public, right?
Yeah.
The other upshot is that it gives Apple a way to buy themselves back without having to actually buy themselves back, because obviously if people in the family are buying up shares and blocks of stock, that basically takes shares away from people who are going to be at the meeting saying, Why are there children with two hands in foreign countries that aren't being paid 10 cents an hour to assemble your phones? And Tim Cook can say, well, because we have a soul and we don't want to be bad people. Yes, but what about my stock? What about our shares? Is it sell your shares to an Apple employee? An Apple employee will be very, very happy to be on board with all of our policies.
Yeah, I like that. Here's some, it's not that bad. Probably not bad news at all. Apple has been ordered to pay $234 million to the University of Wisconsin. What is this? So the patent was created some years ago by a professor and a couple of graduate students at the University of Wisconsin. Yeah. It is a patent for microprocessor technology, and the jury, well, Intel apparently settled.
Yes.
So we don't know, but what Intel paid as a license fee. But Apple decided to fight it. First, they went to the United States Patent and Trademark Office and said, this is a bad patent. And the USPTO said, No, it's a good patent, which was that's a tactical error, which we considered against the patent troll. Because then when you go to a jury trial, the lawyer in the jury trial says, by the way, the Patent and Trademark Office was asked twice to review this patent and agreed.
And it's not clear if they're a patent troll because they are definitely a non-practicing entity, but yeah, they're a university and their research means a lot to them. It's based on the value that they create.
Yeah. And, I should point out that universities generally own the things created by its students and professors. To wit, Stanford owns part of Google. And makes quite a good packet of money on it. Yahoo, too, although I don't think it's probably as valuable to them. So this is not at all unusual. This is a 1998 patent on something called a predictor circuit. It was developed by a computer science professor and, 3 grad students. And the problem is you get a non-technical jury, and they have to assess this. They did find that the A7, A8, and AX processors violated the patent. Apple,
the 8, 9, and 9X are coming up in a separate litigation.
Oh, interesting. So this isn't over yet.
Yeah.
Apple argued that Wisconsin deserved less than the $110 million. Oh, they did settle for with Intel for $110 million in 2008. So I didn't know we knew the amount. Apple said that Wharf's patent entitled it to as little as 7 cents per device sold. So Apple was really haggling over the price, not the patent.
They get sued a lot, and they generally don't want to set a precedent that they'll just roll over for anyone who wants patent money from them.
$234 million, to be fair, is probably not a whole lot of money for Apple. Certainly nothing compared to the amount of money they made on those devices. So
it's just everyone. I mean, they get sued for VPN software, for communication exchange, and it all does add up. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was, I guess, the question that we were asking can you consider Wharf, which is University of Wisconsin's licensing arm, a patent troll? And no, I don't think so. I don't know about the patent because I don't have the technical chops to assess that. But hey, good news! iWork for iCloud is out of beta.
I'm glad that plucky little startup stuck to their guns.
Does anybody use that? Because it's really kind of cool. It's basically web-based versions of the iWork apps, and they're great.
They're terrific for everything but what a lot of people use online tools for, and that's collaboration.
Oh, they don't have collaboration, huh?
Not to the extent that people are used to now with the Google products.
Oh, that's too bad, because they're beautiful, and they're really almost as fully functional as the desktop versions.
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons for developing that was basically because you're not going to be able to sell installations of iWork as a standard for a school, for an office, unless you also have an online option for it. I mean, Google is just doing such a great job of making the Google the Google App Suite just standard amongst offices, standard amongst schools. As Rene said, it's not just the depth of the apps themselves; it's how easy it is to collaborate between groups with them. And if Apple wanted iWork to be about as useful as the chess app, then they could have avoided this step. But as is, they're kind of backed into a corner here. It works great, but it's hard for me to figure out how to advise someone to use iWork instead of Google Apps if they want actual online utility.
It does save them from making a PC version, which we've seen through iTunes on PC is not the ideal situation for anybody.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, most of the people who are going to be attracted to iWork to begin with are already going to be invested in iOS and macOS products, so they can run the native apps as it is. It really is just to capture that remaining 5%. Actually, I'm not even sure if it's so much to capture users so much as to have that tool in the argument of why it's okay for you guys to standardize on Macs. Because if you have people, don't worry if you have people coming in with your Windows tablets or with Chromebooks or anything else like that. Don't worry, we also have online versions of these same apps, so it's not as though everybody's going to have to buy or acquire Apple hardware.
Right. And it works quite well. Didn't it used to complain that if you didn't use Safari, and now I'm using it in Chrome and it doesn't complain. It works fine. It looks great.
Yeah. I've used them on Chromebooks and they work great. I mean, they if anything, it's like a really big gift for people who want to spend $200 on a Samsung notebook because they are certainly the most desktop-ish Office suite you can buy that runs in a web browser.
Yeah, it's pretty
works
impressive.
Great in Chrome.
Well, Microsoft, I don't know. Microsoft's Office 365 is similar. It's a HTML5 version of their Office suite.
This is if you are not a serious Office user and you just want to pull up a template and do a quick budget or make a quick newsletter, anything that you can benefit from Apple's designed stuff, then it's highly useful.
That's 90% of the people who use iWork, right? 95, 99. I mean, if you're really doing serious spreadsheets, for instance, you're not going to use numbers. No. You use numbers because you want it to look pretty, but you need
you want Excel your soccer team thing and you want your budget thing with a picture in it and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Right. Keynote is still the only real standout of the entire iWork suite. The Pages is good if you want to be able to publish ebooks, but not really want to learn how to build ebooks. It's certainly the closest thing to a WYSIWYG editor. But then again, once iBooks Author came out, that kind of scotched that one too. Right. I had to use Pages for a while because it was the only solution for native, really good word processing on the iPad for a couple of years, and every single week I felt the pain of using Pages. Yeah. Well, it's kind of an afterthought. It's not a big important thing for Apple, but it's nice that they finally have enough confidence. It must be, and I don't mean this as a joke. I mean that it must be nice for the team to finally be able to take the beta sticker off of those pages and have a sense that yes, this project is completed. We have finished this, and now we can work on improvements. If our company decides to give us more resources to, they're really a lot of these divisions at Apple. They really are like NASA, where they say we have a plan to land people on Mars. All we need is for the people who budget us to let us do that. But they want us to keep sending 1 or 2 people to the ISS. They still want us to send uncrewed probes, and that's pretty much all they're going to let us do for a while.
Take some of that Apple Music money and give it to Eddie Q's iWork team.
They have added 3D Touch to the iOS versions.
And Split View for the iPad.
That's nice. I mean, they're getting close to iPad Pro, right? They gotta spiff up the place a little bit for the new.
Also, I think that plays the same role as iWork did when the iPad first came out. If there aren't really good deep apps that use those features right now, Apple is the best standard bearer for their own technology. And if they can basically create the most productivity-rich apps for an iPad Pro or even the iPad Air 2, that also support 3D Touch on their other technologies, and also support Force Touch on the desktop, that's going to show the way of here's how good you can make this sort of stuff. Here's how you mix these ingredients into your own products and make them better.
They've also added for both the web and iOS the ability to open Pages 06 and 08, Numbers 06, or Numbers 08, the older versions of the documents, which I'm frankly surprised they didn't have. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're going to write a big report on your iPhone, but the ability to open
but it's good. But it's great. Yeah, it's great for editing. It's great for previewing. The number of times where I have given a talk at a conference and have been like in the back row running through my slides and making a couple of quick changes as ideas come to me, like an hour or 2 hours before I'm about to go on. You don't use the iPhone for creativity. You use it for, you appreciate the fact that you can create this new pocket experience that makes sense, again, in the back row at a conference when you were suddenly realizing that you got someone's name wrong 8 times during a slide deck.
Whoops. Let's fix that real quick. And then you open it on the cloud and you can play it on your computer. It is also nice to see more 3D Touch. 3D Touch, I think we could safely say now, is a success. I see Evernote is a great success, as Evernote has added it. We're starting to see more and more apps now support 3D Touch. Twitter now has 3D Touch in its native client. I'm sure
Tweetbot, the implementation in Tweetbot is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure
Not only
Tweetbot does
if you get a direct message you haven't looked at yet, the direct message is shown in the shortcut, and then when you go there, you can peek and pop at almost everything in the app. It's really well done.
All the major apps seem to be adding it, which is fantastic. You know,
and Tweetbot is one of the best demos you can possibly have, because you in Twitter you have this tiny scrolling text view that has things in a couple of lines. Oftentimes it has rich content in there that's maybe not relevant to you. The ability to and it's not the stuff you want to be immersed in. It's the stuff you want to check for a few seconds to look at that, kitty with a melon helmet on. Okay, acknowledge it's a kitty with a melon helmet on. Adorable.
Move on.
And exactly. Move on with your life. That's what Peak Pop Buttons is for.
I have to say, I keep going back to the main Twitter client, just because Twitter seems to add features that take a while to get to the third party. The Twitter experience, Twitter really wants you to use their client, I think.
It's just so cluttered. I go to Tweetbot because it's like an oasis for my eyes.
I know. But feature-wise, I guess Tweetbot does everything. They have moments now, not that moments.
They have a new activity view too, which is kind of cool.
Oh, okay. Well, I paid for it. They just put out a new version. I think they did.
They just put out the
A few
update. So
weeks
the new version came out that had a few things, but they did a 0.1 release that just added the 3D touch stuff recently.
That's right. Okay. So let me go get the new version of Tweetbot. You convinced me.
And they let you swipe away the Safari View controller, which some people were upset that you couldn't do originally.
It's not. The funny thing is, it's not really a question of whether I have it. It's more a question of, is it on the front page or is it in a folder? So, and that's the key, isn't it? You know, we were talking actually. I thought this was quite interesting. We were talking on Twit this weekend. Had a great panel, and I think it was Peter Rojas, who's now an investor at BetaWorks, who pointed out that really, for a while, it was the home screen that was the most important landscape. You know, you want to get your app on that icon grid on the front page. Now it's notifications. That really, if as an app developer, as a property of any kind, you want to be in the notifications. I don't know if this is true so much on the iPhone because the notification screen disappears so fast with the Touch ID that maybe people don't see it as much as they used to. But that notification real estate is the most valuable real estate. And that's true also of the watch, right? You really want to get in there.
Brad Ellis said that, Brad Ellis, formerly of Pacific Helm, said when he was one of the people who did the early designs for a lot of really well-known Apple Watch apps. And very early on, he said, you know, if you want to be on the Apple Watch, get your notification game tight because that's going to be more important than a lot of the things that you'll do in your app.
I think that's true. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
It's particularly big with Android because you don't even have to interact with the phone for it to display a notification. It just becomes this low power, low energy, high utility sort of screen that keeps pushing stuff up there.
Oh, that's nice. This is nice. So now I can force touch on the timeline. I can force touch somebody's tweet and I get their card.
It's got an iPad view again, an iPad interface as well now.
Does it? Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. You convinced me. And you just, whoops. See, this is always confusing. How do I get to the next page? Do I swipe? Oh, no, don't swipe because that'll do something else. There you go. Yeah. Cool. There's Rene Ritchie. I've heard of him. Pausing Star Wars trailer just long enough to do MacBreak Weekly. How many times have you watched it now?
Probably 20.
Are you looking for tea leaves? Are you reading the tea leaves? What are you doing with that?
There's a bunch of people who are like Senator Caldwell and Matt Drance and a bunch of really smart people are finding Easter eggs in it. Or not Easter eggs, but little bits of information. And I'm
What's the most surprising? I think the thing that we were asking before the show, which is where's Luke, is one of the big questions, right?
I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's trying to avoid the trailer, though. But there's a lot
of... Are there people trying to avoid the trailer? They feel it'll spoil the movie?
Yeah,
oh, there's one of them. Oh, my God. Andy Ihnatko has taken off his headphones in an amazing display of fortitude, of anti-spoiler fortitude. Okay, we're not going to talk about it.
People are finding like symbols and things, so like it's
take them off again.
No, I'm not saying anything.
I'll tell you what, saying anything. Leo, go like this when you stop talking about the Star Wars trailer.
So why is it you don't want to see the Star Wars trailer? You like to see it fresh, Andy? Oh, he can't hear me.
Do the head pat. Yeah, there you go.
Is it that you don't want that anything you see at all would spoil it? I guess you're right, huh?
It's just that it's part of it is nostalgia because I did walk in to see the first Star Wars film when I was like 6 or 7 years old, absolutely cold. And also remember that even like when I was older, of course I saw all the trailers, but that was a day when they knew that they weren't so desperate and they would make sure that you don't find out who Luke Skywalker's father is in the trailer. And so you know, whereas now it's like, you know, it's like even for The Martian, it's like how much of the movie was still unspoiled by the end, you know? Yeah. And so I just, it's not like I'm going to be desperate about this. It's not as though I'm going to be like walking, and just by December, I'm going to be walking through the streets going, la, 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 I can't hear you, I can't hear you. But just as an exercise, I would love to see if I can go in there without seeing anything except for like the first teaser trailer that came out. Okay. Because I don't think it'll ruin it for me, but I think it would be exciting for me if I didn't find out that, my God, Mr. Spock is in the Star Wars universe now. I like to be blown away by that myself.
Don't want to see any
Mr. Spock? What?
Okay. No, Leo, he's
joking. No spoilers. Because it could happen. No, it couldn't happen.
Well, it's the rebooted Star Trek version of Mr. Spock. It's not
exactly
Disney, so you got more to worry about Iron Man and Kermit.
Yeah, Kermit. I don't want to see Kermit show up in Star Wars. No, I agree with you. In fact, I've seen there's something about seeing something and you have no expectations and you're blown away. I remember that's how I saw The Matrix. It was a matinee, and I had no idea what it was about. I just went in because I liked the Wachowskis, and I just went in, and boom.
Well, you also have some people like Georgia. When she sees a trailer, she immediately knows this person must still be alive at that part of the movie.
Yeah,
because you see them
she's too smart.
And then she starts figuring out and I saw her 5-year-old do that too. So it must be like an uncanny family thing. She tries to avoid those things as well.
Yeah, I know. It's not like trying to figure things out. It's like there are times there's going to be a lull in every movie, and in that lull in the third or fourth act, okay, what shots from the trailer have I not seen?
I know. Yet? I don't want that. Yeah.
Sometimes you don't see them at all. Like where was Iron Man's great free fall in Iron Man 2? They just took that out, and it's appalling.
Yeah.
It's appalling, really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Really? Appalling. Huh?
They promised us a scene they did not deliver, Leo. That's just advertising.
Were you surprised when you saw this? I was. Intel has 1,000 people working on chips for the iPhone. When you read that title, it implies that Apple's going to be moving to Intel.
Yeah, it's a horrible title. There was a story 2 years ago. Anton, I'm going to pronounce his last name wrong, Natanko, something. Forgive me, Anton, but in a Russian newspaper where he was talking about this project where Intel probably is never going to get the chipset business. They might get the fab business at some point, but the modem business is still Qualcomm's, and that means it's up for grabs. And if Intel can't make the processor, maybe they can make the modem.
They really would love to be in mobile because mobile's the future, and Intel is totally dominant on desktop and laptop. But if you're not in tablets and phones these days, you kind of have a problem. They tried to scale processors those didn't really catch on. You do occasionally in tablets see Intel processors, but it's really an ARM. It's an ARM.
I'd love for them to fab an A10 or an A11. I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, but why not? I mean, they'd
have to change their mindset.
Yeah, I guess. 10
nanometer.
Intel's using 14 nanometers, but Apple is interested, according to our sources, in an Intel 10 nanometer process.
Yep.
Wow. And of course, if somebody's going to do 10 nanometers it's probably Intel, I would imagine. Yep. So, I mean,
although moving to Broadwell was hard for them, so who knows how long it'll take.
There's some merit to this article, but don't get the implication that Apple's already done the deal is not true.
I mean, it's interesting to look at the phones, the Lumia phones that they introduced a few weeks ago. That it's it's interesting that they've got liquid cooling on the CPU, but it's also interesting that every other mobile phone CPU manufacturer doesn't need liquid cooling.
Right. Yeah. This should read, Intel has 1,000 people working on mobile chips, period. iPhone, whatever. Intel wants to get in that business.
It's super interesting because, 10 years ago, if you'd said that Apple was going to be a leader in chipsets, people would have laughed, and rightly so. But it's like this, and I don't know if I told a story before, but there's a story that it's very similar to Steve Jobs wanting the best sushi in Cafe Max. He just wanted the best people to help him pick chips. And then once they had the best people, they hired a bunch of people who AMD and other companies had laid off. And then once he had those people and they bought PA Semi and they bought Intrinsity, they had a plethora of talent. And Apple does not have to make money on the chips. They don't have to sell them. They don't have to keep them on the shelf for a long time to really get the profit out of that design generation. And they don't have to, for example, if you're Qualcomm and you're making a chip that's going in Windows Phone and that's going in Android, you have to support DirectX and OpenGL. And you have to carry the burden of multiple platforms. And there's all these things that Apple just doesn't have to put up with. And they can just let these amazing chip designers run as fast as they can. And all of a sudden, Apple is making arguably the best ARM IP in the business. And that's a really interesting position for a company like Apple to be in.
It's so funny. I'm reading
not just that, but engineers in the CPU industry, they want to work for Apple for many of the same reasons that Rene has mentioned. So it's not even a case of hiring people away. It's a question of you're now the #1 choice for the best talent that's coming out there.
I'm reading an article in Computer World in 2008 when Apple bought PA Semi. And Apple shocks technology world, buys PA Semi CPU designers. Now, remember, the iPhone was just out about a year when they did this, but nobody had contemplated that Apple would want to make chips. In fact, this article is like, well, what are they? Are this going to be for the desktops? What are they going to? what are they talking about?
They came out with 64-bit, and people made fun of them. And then you see all the benefits they've.
And now everybody's doing it.
Yeah.
But it's also the high level of integration. One of the things that makes the iPad Pro so exciting is that I don't think that Apple's just blowing smoke when they talk about desktop level performance, because maybe the actual, what you see actually there in the CPU is no great shakes, but the way it's been designed to work specifically for this set of tasks, specifically with this architecture, specifically with this operating system, and specifically with apps that have been optimized to work with this OS and this architecture, that's the way that it can get far, far more horsepower than the engine block size would indicate.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could. I've as a consumer, I've been contemplating the difference between buying an Intel Core M based Surface 4 Pro, because they really are very nice tablets. I'm actually suspecting that I'll get much better performance off of this mobile CPU in the iPad Pro. This
is a tough time for you, Andy, isn't it?
It's
decision time is tough.
An expensive time.
I love it. I can't tell you. I can't tell you how happy I am. I mean, now I've had this loaner for a couple days now, and it's a really great phone, and I love it. And I would, after based on 2 days.
You're talking about the 6P, not the Nexus.
Based on the new Nexus. And there's so many things about this that I really, really like about it, and there's so many things about the 6S Plus that I really, really like. I love the fact that I don't know which one I'm going to buy in a couple of months. Same thing with the iPad versus the Surface Pro. They're two really superb tablets in their own individual ways. It's not just everybody trying to make the same clone of the same hardware. It's like everybody feels. It seems as though the major players these days, they feel passionately about. They have a passionate belief in this vision they've had of what a computer should look like and what's going to be most relevant to people in the next 3 to 4 to 5 years. And I just love being in a position where it's so hard to choose.
Okay, but really the most important question, are you going to see Star Wars in 3D or 2D?
Oh, did you see the Dolby Vision thing, Leo?
No.
There are people trying to find out where it's playing in Dolby Vision, which is the Dolby Atmos system plus a high dynamic range video.
Yeah, you want HDR, but there's only 7 HDR theaters in the entire country, and Atmos is where your speakers come from above.
Yeah.
See, I don't care about 3D. I would like to see HDR, though. Yeah. Will there be an HDR? Of course there will,
I believe they said it's going to be in Dolby Vision some places.
Wow.
See, I'm just. There's no bigger Star Wars geek than I am, but even I'm like, I have a feeling they're going to sell more than 5,000 tickets to this. It's okay if I have to wait a week to actually just be able to like go to a theater of my choosing and see it and not have to sit in the first 2 rows.
You're not going to really try to see it the first night.
If I've got juiced in friends of mine who can get me into the absolute most awesome screening in the most awesome theater, and George Lucas is there and he'd very much like to meet me, hey, I'll go to that one.
You need to be a Fandango VIP. You could do it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I'm not willing to spend more than cover price for these tickets.
I can't believe you can buy tickets now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of those people who were not just had to get the first ticket to episode 1. I was in line at 4 or 5 in the morning months earlier to be at a theater to buy when the actual ticket online purchasing opened, because there was no Fandango back then. I'm a little bit older now.
Wait a minute, there was no Fandango back then. However, did you survive?
It was terrible, Leo.
You had to go to the. Lisa was telling me this. She said, yeah, we had to go to the box office to buy tickets.
The box office? What's a box office?
But I wanted to be with people who also had my particular level of crazy about this movie.
I know. It's like waiting in line at an Apple store. Exactly.
I get the article, but someone was saying that there was a huge monetization ability. They could have charged nerds $1 a shot to watch the trailer last night, and they would have made a fortune, and total lost opportunity.
So I'm confused because this Fandango says it opens the 18th, but I can buy tickets on the 17th.
There's a midnight or late night showing on the.
Oh, yeah. I should do it. How many do we need?
3D,
right?
All of them, all the tickets.
Should I get 10, 20? I'll get 20. Everybody in the brick house can do it. What do you think?
Do it.
All right.
I would love to see this movie.
All right.
Seriously, I'm having a hard time concentrating with you guys talking about this movie.
Well, don't watch any more trailers. It's just causing you to hyperventilate.
I just thought of another reason why I should probably try to see it like the first day, because if I wait 3 or 4 days, worse than spoiler, is reading everyone who's pissed off for stupid reasons saying, well, I mean, there's not enough sword fighting in this one. I wasn't, well, I mean, it's non-canonical because in the Marvel comic, Princess Leia was supposed to be, oh, for God's sake.
So, and by the way, I did just buy 20 tickets for Thursday, December 17th at 7:30 p.m.
Nice.
Quit party.
So I think we're all going. Woohoo! 3D, I'm sorry. They didn't offer a 2D option.
Less than 2D.
We don't mind 3D, right?
I'm down.
You're okay with that, Jason?
I'm okay with that. Bring it on. I don't care. I just want to see it.
I want you to bring the whole family. John will be going. Here comes Greg. He's obviously interested. So I think there's some interest going on here. It's still spinning. Complete My Purchase is still spinning. Perhaps they're going to reject me.
Compute.
There is no bad way to see TIE fighters flying through atmosphere. I think it might be good in 3D. It's shot in 3D, right? I mean, it's a native 3D. It's not up-sampled. Oh, Jammer B already bought some. Well, we'll have more. Jammer, John, did you buy to the same event? Patrick Delahanty bought some.
It's not like you guys aren't going to want to watch this more than one time.
Yeah, but they bought them at the same time. Patrick's going to the 8 o'clock show.
We can fill the place. I'm convinced we can fill the place.
I think 20 tickets. If you know what, if there's extras, we'll invite our family of people in the viewing audience.
What if you make it very clear to all the listeners that this is the one that you already bought tickets for, that if anybody wants to be in the Twit Hoot Nanny, buy tickets at this screening at this theater on this night.
Yeah, that's good. That's right. It's at the Boulevard Cinemas 12 in Petaluma, California, Thursday, December 17th, 7:30 p.m. Star Wars The Force Awakens 3D.
Show up in your best Darth Maul suit.
Lightsabers will not be allowed in.
This is the midnight. I was confused earlier. It was like a midnight showing. Is this right when it launches, or the day before? Or when does it launch? Actually,
this is the day before. I don't know how we're getting to see this.
I don't get it.
I don't get it. But I'm not going to ask any questions. Yes. Although I notice the ball is still going.
It's still somewhat concerning, but
it might be my credit card information. I don't know how long it's been since I bought something on Fandango.
You're running an ad blocker?
I am. Son of a gun.
Yeah, it's amateurs, not returning yourself.
Let's disable that. Okay. Yeah, that's probably what it is. He doesn't like the ad blocker. This whole ad blocking thing. What a mistake I made. Let's take a break. Let's unblock the ads. Daddy's got to pay for some Star Wars tickets. It's midnight internationally.
Zulu, Zulu?
Midnight Zulu.
So Greenwich Mean Time minus, what, 8 hours?
I don't understand it. Viewing starts Thursday the 17th at 7 p.m., Guy Smiley's saying in our chat room, which means we will see it only 30 minutes after everyone else does.
Acceptable.
It's midnight somewhere. Our show today brought to you by LegalZoom.com. Oh, I love LegalZoom. We just started a new company. Lisa started a new ad agency. That we're going to split the ad sales off from Twit so that we don't have to muddy our hands with commerce. And, of course, what do? Immediately, we go to LegalZoom. Why should you pay white shoe lawyer prices to do things you can do yourself at LegalZoom.com? It isn't hard to do things like incorporate, LLC, trademarks. LegalZoom did trademarks for Twit and the Twit logo. Last wills, living trusts. Start with LegalZoom. For more than a decade, they've provided a way for normal, regular people like you and me to confidently navigate the legal system. Now, I have to explain this. LegalZoom's not a law firm, but that's the benefit. That's how they provide such great value. They don't rely on charging you by the hour. You get transparent pricing. You know exactly what it's going to cost you. There's customer reviews, so you know exactly what you're getting up front. They do, and this is new, and I love this. If you do need legal advice, what they did is they negotiated deals with independent attorneys in almost every state. So you can go for a flat fee. Again, you know ahead of time what it's going to cost you. Get advice, straightforward guidance, and it's really a lot less than you would pay if you went out in the street and went to that big, tall building downtown. LegalZoom is awesome. Don't let legal hurdles be an excuse to not live your dreams, to start your business or protect your family. Go to LegalZoom.com today and start building your own future. This is empowering. It really is great. LegalZoom.com. And don't forget to enter MBW in the referral box at checkout. You will save even more. LegalZoom.com. I don't know what to do.
I don't either.
It's still spinning.
Make the wrong move, and you're going to have 40 tickets.
I'm gonna assume that I got tickets, and it's just spinning because that's there's other people
probably
doing
send you
this.
a confirmation email.
I'm just checking the email right now. Okay, moving on. Why are we? I don't. Well, everybody knows that we are easily distracted, right?
Sorry? What was that?
Moving on. I either have or don't have tickets.
It's Schrodinger's tickets.
It's Schrodinger's tickets. It's true. If I check it, maybe I won't. Maybe the cat will be dead. I don't know. I just don't know what to do. Okay? You got all three. You got the new Magic Trackpad, new Magic Keyboard, new Magic Mouse, right, Rene?
Yes.
Is it dopey that you charge the mouse from the bottom, or does it even matter?
No. So here's the thing. If you look at the Magic Trackpad, for example, just because it's easy to hold up, there has a nice flat surface at the back, so it's very easy to mount a lightning port in it, and it's very easy to use it while you're charging. If we look at the Magic Mouse, there is no such surface at the back nor at the front. So I did a mock-up. I think I put it in the show notes. I did a mock-up of what it would look like, and it would look sphincter-esque if you actually put up.
Yeah, I don't think it belongs. I shouldn't be on. It'd be like little mouse pellets would be coming out the back. It's not.
Yeah, and your finger, you'd have to cut into the surface, so your finger, where you're trying to use it, your finger would feel it all the time. It would basically be rubbing up against it all the time. Apple could theoretically redesign the entire thing and make a flat back plane, but when you use a mouse, you want your hand to be pointing down to hold the mouse. On a trackpad, your hand is up, so having something at the back doesn't mean anything, but having it at the front, it's not ideal. And yeah, Apple could redesign it, but it's something that you plug in once every month or so, and for 2 minutes, it'll give you a 9-hour day's worth of usage. So in an ideal world, yeah, it's not perfect that you can't charge it while using it. But for this design of the Magic Mouse, it's the best solution.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, it looks stupid while you're charging, but come on. I mean, it's not like you have to leave it in there for 3 days while it charges. That's such a non-complaint.
Well, I either have 20 or 40 tickets. I don't know. So I just decided to do it over again.
One of them completed.
Auditorium 1. We will be there. And the trackpad, I didn't realize until you showed a picture of it next to the old one. It's a lot bigger. It's like twice as. Yeah. It's 50% bigger.
It's about 33%, I think they said. And it is a big hunk of rectangular glass.
Is that good?
Yeah, I mean, it's much better if you're using it for gestures, and because you can do the force press and stuff now too. I know Serenity said she doesn't like it as much because she's used to resting her fingers on the side of the trackpad. I never did that, so I didn't even notice the difference in size. But it does mean that you can move your fingers around without having to pick them up and replace them on the trackpad as much.
Yeah. And the thing is, well, of course, you won't know because, of course, it's going to be months before you know how long the charge lasts, probably.
Yeah, I did a couple quick tests. I only had it for a week before I started writing about it, and it went down. And I was using it a lot, and I was switching, especially the keyboard, between multiple devices. It went down a few percentage points.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be any problem.
Yeah.
And Apple's incredibly conservative with their battery.
So what you would do is you'd go to bed. This is why I don't use wireless, because it's unpredictable when it's going to lose its juice. Is there a gauge on screen that you can look at?
Yeah, so you just go to the Bluetooth button on the Mac menu bar, you tap on that, and it shows you the amount of charge left. But the thing is, if it gives you a warning, you still have about 20% left.
Oh,
and then,
good. Okay.
You plug it in for 2 minutes, it gives you 9 hours of charge. And all you got to do is tell Siri or something to remind you to plug it in at night, and then it'll recharge for another month.
Perfect. So I think that's fine. Not that I want this mouse, because I'm just not a fan of the Magic Mouse, but I think that's... And as you point out, putting it on the back is not a good idea. It's not.
And people this is one of the few things, I generally like Apple products. I think they're very considered with their design. I have not liked, I liked the original mouse on the Lisa and Mac because it was new and novel, but I haven't liked an Apple mouse since then. Didn't like the Hockey Puck, didn't like the Mighty Mouse, don't like the Magic Mouse.
Right. We've talked
so I'm not predisposed to like this.
Right. Somebody asked a good question. Is Apple going to discontinue any of the old keyboards? I mean, obviously they're going to discontinue the mouse and trackpad, but are they going to discontinue? Because right now they have wired, they have unwired, they have full size, they're going to keep those wired ones, right? The wired extended.
The wired extended keyboard is still on the price list. I didn't see the old wireless keyboard on the price list or the wired compact keyboard on the price list.
Okay. I guess we just don't know what Apple's going to do, but there's no way they're going to kill the wired extended. There's just too many people. That's what I use. It's too many people that use it.
Or unless, of course, they have a plan of making sure that all of the keyboards they make everywhere suck.
But again, keyboard is a standard, a USB standard. So
you can buy. I mean, you can buy them elsewhere. So
yeah.
Apple maybe has a little bit of license to make keyboards that really suck. Case in point.
Oh, you got one.
Yeah, I mean, God.
Now, what about the wedge design? Is that okay? Is that?
I mean, this is. I mean, it depends on if I use my desk for a lot of different things, and sometimes you have to pick up your keyboard and move it someplace else, and there's really no place to pick it up because there's no bezel on it.
Yeah.
The pitch of the angle, okay, it's maybe a little bit flat for my taste. The keys feel terrible. They're way too flat. They're even worse than on my MacBook Pro, and those weren't very good to begin with. Honestly, I have my Anchor keyboard that cost about a third as much, and it's way more comfortable to type on than this is. Way more comfortable to use. This is a desktop keyboard that's it feels cheap too. This is embarrassing.
Yeah. Apple has launched what they euphemistically call a quality program.
Sorry, guys.
What happened? Oh, we hear him, but he seems to have lost his connectivity.
He brought that keyboard down just a bit too hard.
Oh, it was the keyboard.
Sorry about that. Yeah. No. It's for some reason, you're on Wi-Fi on my MacBook, and even though I've got Ethernet plugged in,
it's working.
Did you get all of that, or just some?
Yes,
of that?
We got all of it.
Okay.
It was only when you put the keyboard down that something happened.
Yeah.
We heard "sorry guys" is what we heard.
Yeah, it's because I'm sorry that my internet connection seems to be fritzing
up.
No,
it's fine.
But yeah, I mean, this is just bad. It's interesting as a static object on your desk. If your job is to have something pretty that you never have to type with, well done, Apple. Nice design.
Right.
But this is a desktop keyboard with absolutely not a single thing to recommend it whatsoever, except for it looks kind of interesting when you don't type on it.
It's interesting to me that there is such a divisiveness, like with the MacBook keyboard and with this. Some people, like, I really like the MacBook keyboard and I really like this, and the more I use it, the more I like it. But some people absolutely detest the new MacBook keyboard and detest this keyboard.
It's a very personal choice.
And it's not going to get Gruber off his Apple extended keyboard too, and it's not going to get anyone off one of those big clickety-clacky keyboards. But even within the MacBook line, some people, I find it hard to go back to the MacBook Pro now because I'm used to the keys not being as wobbly anymore, and I actually like that. But some people, again, they really don't like it.
It takes a while. It's taken me a while to get used to the MacBook, and I still get typos for some reason just because of the way the keyboard is. But
switching back and forth was hard for me because I had a MacBook Pro that I was using for editing, video editing as well, and I've moved that to my iMac now, so I'm not switching back and forth, and now it's much easier. But that's one of the things that I wish this stuff was all more consistent. Like, I like this new keyboard a lot. I wish the keys were black, and I wish they were backlit. And I understand Apple can't do the backlight for now because it wouldn't have a month of battery anymore, but eventually they'll get there. But I like the same token, I don't necessarily like a giant swath of white on the top of this.
Right.
And I know intellectually it's glass and it's not going to stain, but it just looks like this big, piece of paper that's going to stain on my desk.
Right.
And why can't I have this in rose gold or space gray or something?
Ooh, rose gold. Ooh.
Yeah. Everything, Leo.
Ooh, everything.
Yeah. But my major objection is just that it's the same thing that I object to. Why did Apple put the SD card slot on the way back of the iMac?
Yeah.
You're idiots if you put it there. It's like, this is a desktop keyboard. You've made no allowances to make this a really, really useful mobile keyboard, something that would be really, really useful with an iPad. It's a desktop keyboard. You're offering no advantages whatsoever to this as a desktop keyboard. You could have made the most beautiful designed, beautiful feeling keyboard in the world with function keys and up and down arrows that aren't this tiny. You could do that. Nobody cares about making flat, lightweight desktop keyboards except for Apple.
Well,
it's embarrassing.
This is what happens, I think, when you say designers have the final say. Because designers are just as opinionated as you guys, and their opinion apparently differs. But they get to choose in Apple, apparently.
Yeah.
And it's a design decision, but at least the good news is you don't have to use that keyboard.
The philosophical thing is, like, for me, there's a huge advantage to having a keyboard on my iMac that is almost identical to the keyboard on my MacBook, because I never have to think about typing.
That
and when
I
they're
agree
different,
with.
I do think about it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the lowest common denominator for many people, and they'd prefer better on both. But for me, it means I have no excess mental load. I just come in and I start typing, and it feels just like my MacBook. I don't even consider it anymore.
Yeah. But then at least have a keyboard that's as good as the keyboard on the MacBook. I mean, I have the extended USB keyboard over there, and was the exact same key switches on my unibody MacBook Pro from 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, which is a perfectly fine, perfectly competent notebook keyboard. Now they started making the keyboard flatter on the MacBook for no decent reason. They made the keyboard on this desktop keyboard flatter for no decent reason. Again, this is way well in the what the hell is Apple thinking column. I know it comes down to they have the power to do exactly the stuff that interests them. They know that Microsoft, of all people, care about comfortable, full-size, usable keyboards, so people can always buy Bluetooth keyboards and wired keyboards from Microsoft and other companies if they want to do that. I'm just sad to say that they really just don't find they really don't want to bring Apple design to something as hands-on, literally, as a keyboard. I'm just sorry that they don't care about that.
I love how Andy and I can disagree about stuff like this and do it so amicably and friendly, and I feel happy listening to him have different opinions, unlike a lot of the internet, which I think is a great credit to the show, Leo.
So one of the questions, yes, because we're collegial and
we're
friends,
passionate geeks,
and we care.
You're never also the central fact of all discussion is that you are never wrong when you say this is how this makes me feel.
I feel, yes.
It's when you say that you are wrong for feeling something different for me. So if this keyboard disgusts me, it doesn't quite disgust me, but it's just I'm going to use it somewhere, but it's not going to be used as much as this simple, proletarian, inexpensive, much more comfortable no-name keyboard. But again, if you like it, that's fine.
Jason Snell
you don't be one of those people who are saying, "Hey, stop enjoying that. You shouldn't be enjoying that."
By the way, I think I've had the same problem that you seem to be having right now, Andy, because in theory, in the network preferences, you can reorder the Wi-Fi and Ethernet so that if Wi-Fi is available but you have Ethernet plugged in, it would prefer Ethernet. Our IT guy told me last week, you're the #1 user of Wi-Fi on your desktop Mac in your office. Don't you know you have Ethernet available? I said, I do. He said, yeah. He said, did you know it's also plugged into your machine? I said, it is? He said, yeah. And I even checked your network preference pane, and Ethernet's preferred, but for some reason my iMac has been using Wi-Fi for like the last 4 years.
I actually turned Wi-Fi off for the show just so it can. That's what I
had to do, is turn off Wi-Fi on that machine.
I don't know what's going on, because during the first commercial, I did notice that for some reason it was using Wi-Fi instead of the Ethernet I had plugged in. So I disconnected, turned off Wi-Fi. But for some reason, in this instance, my MacBook does not want to use the Ethernet that I have connected into it right now. And it's not because it's not plugged in. I unplugged it.
You have showed yeah. Yeah, no, it's so strange, because there is and if you go to the network system preference pane, there's a little drop-down gear under the different connections, and you can change the service order, and you can indicate what you want it to be, and it should observe this. Every computer I've ever used, not just Apple, does this, but it seems maybe it's a bug in El Capitan or something, but it seems to be ignoring that. The captain seems to be ignoring Apple ignores what we think in every respect. Design. So Jason Snell was curious. He wanted to know if you could use these new trackpads and so forth on older Macs. So he plugged it in via the Lightning charger, and it worked even without Bluetooth. So that's one good thing. You can use the cable if you wish. They work over USB without Bluetooth. The Magic Trackpad apparently says requires El Capitan and Bluetooth 4.0. However, he says, when I plugged the Magic Trackpad into the iMac, nothing happened. It didn't recognize it at all, and I couldn't pair it using Bluetooth either. So it was running Yosemite, so that's true. You do need El Capitan. And it did work. Everything, including Force Touch, was supported over USB. Then, and this is the weird part, I unplugged the trackpad, and it still worked.
We had a couple of readers write in and say they had the same experience. They plugged it into older Macs, not expecting anything, and it worked. And they unplugged it, and it still worked. Apple doesn't officially say it's supported, so I don't know how well or how long.
Maybe that's why, because it's unpredictable.
Don't look a gift force click in the mouth.
So he says, all I can share my experiences. He doesn't have. He says, I don't have the labs I used to have at Macworld, but all I can share my experiences with these 2 older Macs running older versions of OS 10. My guess is some old Macs will support the Magic Trackpad 2 in some way. The wired mode might be required, but don't despair. If you've got an older Mac and really want a Magic Trackpad 2, you should give it a try. Apple may not claim compatibility, but it may work anyway. Also, and thanks to our chat room for providing this link to us. For a long time, Windows users have been scammed by swindlers. This is Dan Gooden writing in Ars Technica. Swindlers impersonating Microsoft, saying, well, they say, I'm calling from Windows, and we think you have, we see you have malware on your system, and walking them through this whole thing. In fact, the best recordings on YouTube of this are by people who own Macs, so they know it's not true, and they still go through the whole thing. Apparently, Malwarebytes has spotted a web campaign to do something similar on OS 10, and it gives you, as connection failed, invalid certificate, call toll-free. Critical security warning. Your device, iPad, iPod, iPhone, is infected with a malicious AdWord attack. It's always the giveaway when the English is not so perfect. Please contact tech support and provide the error code rootkits1178 to scan and remove any potential threats. I just want to warn people who have been blithely ignorant of this scam on Windows side because you've owned Macs. Now they're trying to get you. This is not real. Eventually, there's 2 ways you can lose this game. One is they'll charge your credit card for the fix, the quote fix, which is, of course, there's nothing wrong in the first place. So you may be out $300, plus they've got your credit card number. But worse, they often use remote access software to fix the problem, and in doing so, embed other malware in your system. So if you see something like this pop up, it's always in a browser. It's just JavaScript. Just ignore it. Turn it off. And that's a shame that people have to put up with that stuff. It's mostly, I'm sorry to say, older people and less sophisticated users. Anybody watching this show is not going to get bit. Does your MacBook screen look like this? Gosh, I hope not. But apparently, there are some people who have MacBook Pros or MacBooks that are delaminating, or their Retina displays are wearing, the anti-reflective coating is wearing off. And Apple has created a quality program. The euphemistically named quality program really means, oh, yes, there is a problem, and if you're affected, we will fix it. And even if you're out of warranty, we will fix it. So if you do see your screen looking like that, wow. Now, you know, Apple's been pretty good about this, because I bet some of these errors could be from people using, like, Windex to clean their screen.
Frat parties.
Frat parties. Don't use beer to clean your screen.
Yeah. They are not slides, people.
People are calling it Staingate.
A lot of people also put like screen cloths on their keyboard before they close the lid, thinking that it will actually protect them from the keycaps. So that might be it as well.
Yeah, that actually has been a problem in the past on Apple laptops, is the keys kind of leaving a greasy imprint on the screen. Usually that can be cleaned off.
Yeah.
But so I understand you're saying, well, I don't want to, but you're saying the cloth is worse than the key imprints.
Well, I'm saying I'm wondering if that isn't a factor as well. If you've got a problem, if you've got a problem with
sandpaper.
Yeah. don't. If you eat a lot of salty food, so if you eat a lot of pretzels, don't shake the pretzel salt over your keyboard before closing the lid. Stuff of that nature.
You know, it's interesting.
No, I'm saying that if you've got if Apple has a problem with the adhesion between the final coating and the glass, so much that is subtle and it's not going to affect everybody, but in those outsider cases where someone is putting a lot more pressure on that, who knows, maybe that's part of the problem too. Yep. It does shed a little bit light on, coincidentally enough, on Microsoft's design for the Surface Book, that people are, It's interesting that there's a gap between the rear edge of the hinge and
never
the forward
touched
edge
the screen.
of the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and some people quite correctly are speculating, well, what happens if I have this in my notebook and dust like migrate in between those two versus maybe it's better to not have the glass and have any chance whatsoever it being ever in contact with the keycaps at all.
Right.
So
mine comes Monday. So by next week's show, I'll just kind of quickly show it and take it away because it is MacBreak Weekly after all. But I'll just
catnip.
Look, this is. But I think that's an interesting. I mean, it kind of looks ugly because it looks like a clothespin kind of when it closes. This weird hinge closes. But let me see if I can find an image of it. But maybe that's one of the reasons. You see that it doesn't. The keys never touch the screen because of that gap. Well, I'll let you know. Looks like a nice notebook anyway. Let's see what else. Did I mention I bought 20 tickets for the Star Wars? Okay.
At least.
Yeah.
20 tickets.
At least. Maybe 40. 256. Okay, this is a good one, actually. I'm not sure exactly what's going on. There's an ad kit SDK that some apps use that apparently pulls data from private APIs and is, in fact, sending back to companies your email address on your iPhone or iPad, the list of installed apps, serial numbers, and other information. The company that discovered this, Source DNA, said they found 256 iOS apps that do this. And, of course, it's a violation of the App Store privacy policy. But apparently Apple didn't catch this. The only one they mentioned by name is the Chinese McDonald's app.
Of course.
So don't use that one. And Apple says Apple says, quote, we've identified a group of apps that are using a third-party advertising SDK developed by Yumi, a mobile advertising provider that uses private APIs to gather private information, user email addresses and device identifiers, and route data to its company's server. This is a violation of our security and privacy guidelines. The apps using Yumi's SDK will be removed from the App Store, and any new apps submitted to the App Store using this SDK will be rejected. We're closely working with developers to help them get updated versions of their apps that are safe for customers and in compliance with our guidelines back in the App Store quickly. That implies, one, that some people may have used this Yumi SDK and not known that it was doing this. And two, which bothers me a little bit more, they're not giving out a list of these apps. So you don't have any way of knowing whether you're affected. And they're not using the kill switch. They're just taking them out of the App Store. So what should we do about this?
Well, the thing that always bothers me about this, the same as Xcode Ghost, is that it's levels of trust. It's like SDK communicated diseases. It's not just who you're using; it's who that develop. Like
right.
I buy from a developer, but does a developer outsource something to another company, and do they outsource that to a freelancer, and do they go and get a library of things to use? And how many steps? How do I really know in the end who's producing the software that I'm using? In this case, it's an advertising thing, so maybe the developers, in their run to, I understand monetizing apps is so hard, and writing all the code to do the ad stuff.
Yeah, you always go
really
to third
hard,
party for that, you know.
Yeah, but it just means that now everyone has to pay a lot more attention. Like everyone from the developer and everywhere down that chain has to pay a lot more attention to where they're sourcing all this stuff from.
Yeah.
Should we worry? I mean, some people are saying, "Oh, there's mostly Chinese apps." I guess Yumi is a Chinese ad network. I don't know.
Do you know the Swift on Security account, Leo, on Twitter?
Yeah, Taylor Swift.
Yeah, so Swift on Security. Yeah, she tweeted two things. She goes, if you want to run Android, get a Nexus. If you want to run an iOS device, do not jailbreak it and do not download software from China.
Yeah, this is the Yumi webpage, and because it's in Chinese, I think it says "make your ad around every corner," which I hope that's not a literal translation. But because of that, I would presume that this is used only in iOS, Chinese iOS apps, but one does not know.
I bet we're going to see a lot more of this, though. Not only is a lot of development outsourced to other countries, but also I think that a lot of companies are going to be a little bit more desperate to keep the money pipe flowing, even when people are using ad blockers. So we're going to see. I think it's an opportunity for shenanigans for sure.
The thing that worries me is that, and I think Apple needs to be a little more forthcoming. We don't. what are the apps? I want to delete that app from my iPhone. How do I do that? I don't know the list. Yeah. Why are they keeping that secret?
And last time for the Xcode Ghost, there was a list that wasn't provided by Apple, but one of the security companies put together a list, and I'm sure the security company here that discovered this has the list.
They say SourceDNA says we sent the list to Apple.
Yeah, SourceDNA could publish that list too. And
maybe they should.
Those companies, absolutely. But the thing that's interesting is Rich Mogul did a really good piece for Tidbits a few weeks ago where he talked about how security is, a lot of it is economics. And if it's too expensive to attack a platform, a lot of people can't do it. And when you start attacking the developers, it makes it much cheaper to go after iOS devices. Getting a real malware app on the App Store is very difficult. Getting it past Apple is very difficult. Getting into the developer chain is much less expensive and less difficult. So that's sort of the new target area, the new surface area for these attacks.
Yeah, and the other thing I guess we should probably say is it's not like, I mean, it's not a huge violation of privacy. It's your email, but, you know, anybody who has a mom has already had their email given out to a million, greeting card companies and things like that, right? No, your email isn't the most private thing about you. It's a little weird that it collects all the apps you use, but again, I don't know if that's a huge private.
Twitter was doing that.
Yeah, and then they said, and this is a benefit to you because now we're going to give you tweets that are you'll be more interested in because we now know what apps you use. It's not like it's giving your, as far as we know, and nobody's implied this, your credit card numbers or anything like that, right? It's just your unique identifier. And some of it was only
for older, like you had to be running older versions of iOS to get some of the information.
So there's nothing to panic about, I guess, right?
No, I mean, any information leaked is information leaked, and we never. And in an ideal world, you want zero knowledge. You don't want anyone to know anything about you. But iOS has done a pretty good job of making where it's all about defensive depth and mitigation. So if you can get something onto the platform, how do they make sure you get no further than that app? How do they make sure you get no further than the sandbox container that app can access? And there are still a few things that the app needs to be able to pull. But they're getting better generation after generation at tightening that down.
Yeah. Yeah.
If anything, it's just here to let us know that this problem exists and there are places where you can tighten down the screws a little bit more.
Delete that official Chinese McDonald's app right away.
Apple's, I don't know, should I end on a sad note? Apple's biggest fan has passed away, according to the Washington Post. Did you know this guy was Apple's biggest fan? His name is Gary Allen.
Terrific.
He definitely would be on the short list.
Yeah. Passed away of brain cancer at the age of 67. He was a retired EMS dispatcher, and he would travel the world obsessively and expensively, says the Washington Post, to be among the first in line at a company's new stores. He attended more than 140 Apple Store openings. He could even tell you where the Apple Store tables are made in Utah, and he stopped by the factory once to say thanks.
It was an outstanding website.
What's the website?
Info Apple Store.
So it's everything you ever wanted to know about the Apple Store.
Yeah.
I think it also includes, like, if your city is being considered for a flagship store, then he would have pictures of the site, construction pictures of it going on. I learned more about the Boylston Street Apple Store in Boston from his site than from the local news, or even from my own curiosity.
Unfortunately, the site is down with just this simple note: "Please come back later." And
I think you have to go to Internet Archive to see.
It's ifoapplestore.com, right? Yeah. What is that? IFO. I am a fan of. I don't know. So Gary Allen passed away, and may he rest in peace. I had no idea he existed, and I'm sorry I missed his posts because they sound fascinating.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah.
It's nice to see passion without mania, you know?
Yes.
Where a level of interest that clearly feeds somebody's enjoyment of life instead of dislodging enjoyment of life.
Travel's great, and any excuse to travel. And if you want to go to Madrid to see the Apple Store opening, what the hell? There's nothing wrong with that. That's great.
Exactly, and it's the amount of clarity with which he shared his love of the Apple stores that made it so valuable. Again, sometimes you see people that are just like, they're angry with themselves. They're angry with themselves if they don't get to see Star Wars on the first day, and will just eat at them for 3 or 4 years, as opposed to the reasons why you would enjoy seeing Star Wars on the first day.
Here's an example of one of his tweets. This is the Madrid Apple Store. He's noting that the same granite is outside as is inside in the tiles, and the complex wood window frame hides an ugly metal frame for sliding shutters. And, you know, I have to say, that's kind of cool. And it's neat that he would note these details and bring them to our attention. So I'm sorry I didn't know about this.
I also like to imagine, remember that every single part, every single component of every single design of everything ever was the result of a lot of people who worked very, very hard on it and put a lot of thought into it. And I like to imagine someone inside Cupertino saying, yes, somebody noticed that detail. I thought that was important, and we all thought that was a great idea. I'm glad that and we didn't do this so someone would notice it, but it pleases us that someone noticed that attention to detail.
Yeah, that's neat. Let's take a break. We're going to get your picks of the week in a moment. But first, a word about Audible.com. Boy, you know, everybody knows how much we love Audible. I don't even know if we have to do ads anymore. We just say, if you're not an Audible subscriber, what the heck? Why not? Surely you've heard us talk about the huge variety, now 180,000 books. And not just, you know, books, but radio shows and lectures and comedy performances, all sorts of audio performances. If you want to keep up with what's going on, Audible is a great resource for that. I listen to the Steve Jobs books on Audible, the Elon Musk book on Audible. I'm kind of a fan of the rock and roll bios, so I've learned everything you could possibly know about Graham Nash and Keith Richards and Eric Clapton, and it's just fun to listen to these books. They just come alive. Will Wheaton has a new one. Randall Monroe, the guy who does XKCD, has a new book. Will Wheaton narrates it called What If? And I just can't. I'm dying to read this. I'm sorry. People get mad when I say read. Listen to it. What If? Serious scientific answers to absurd hypothetical questions. I guess Randall Monroe gets a lot of strange questions from his fans. And so he tried to answer them. What if you tried to hit a baseball pitched at 90% of the speed of light? What would happen? How fast can you hit a speed bump while driving and live? If there were a robot apocalypse, how long would humanity last? This sounds great.
Yeah, he started off as a column, actually. And, of course, once he started doing the first one, everyone keeps coming up with interesting questions that can be answered in-depth and scientifically that almost always end with the answer of all energy in the universe collapses and the entire universe, all reality ends. It's like, okay, well, assume that you could actually create, here's the mass of a baseball. Here's the amount of energy you'd have to put into that baseball to move it to the speed of light. That consumes all energy in the universe.
Wow. By the way, as is often the case with Audible books, because this book has pictures, has, you know, images in it, Audible makes those, they call it the accompanying reference material, available so you can download it as a PDF and look at it. So I think that that's really great. You're not losing anything, and you're gaining something. You're gaining Will Wheaton in your ear. So I love Audible. This could be your free book. We're going to get you a free book. All you have to do is go to audible.com/MacBreak. But may I point out that I am not the only one who listens like a demon to Audible. A man named Andy Ihnatko is also quite the fan. You said you just bought a couple of new books. What's new?
Just bought a couple of them. Sarah Vowell has a brand new book.
Oh, I love her. Yeah.
It's called Lafayette in the Somewhat United States. That I haven't even started it yet, but based on the word Sarah Vowell, I knew I had to get it. It's basically a first-person account of the American Revolution, basically following around Lafayette, this teenage Frenchman who decided to come over here and buddy up to George Washington and start having adventures here. And it really goes into here's what it might have been like to actually been there as French and American troops are surrendering by the thousands, as there's infighting about what the direction should be, as people are trying to unseat George Washington as the commander-in-chief of the Continental Forces. It's not by what I've read about it, it's not even everything that's been told to you about the United States history is a lie told by white men. It's like, no, it's actually a lot more interesting and a lot funnier than you might have imagined. And the idea of taking it through the eyes of Lafayette is such an interesting thing.
Can't
having
wait.
just been through 2 David McCulloch books about both the American Revolution and like France from like 1800 through 1890 through the eyes of Americans. This seems like a really great final book in that trilogy. And also Sarah Vowell. That's 2 words that means that I'm buying this book. She's
so great. And by the way, look who reads on this. It's not just her. Fred Armisen, Nick Offerman, John Hodgman, John Slattery, Patton Oswalt. I mean, this is a cast of some of the funniest, best actors out there. I can't wait.
On September 28th.
And by the way, Sarah Vowell has such a great, distinctive voice. You might have heard her on This American Life. She's just, let me play a little bit of this.
Lafayette arrived in Philadelphia to revisit the building he referred to as the Hall of Independence. 20,000 locals gathered there to hear what he had to say.
Within these sacred walls, by a council of wise...
This is great. So this is a full, what they call a full cast reading, which makes it so fun. Oh, Andy, this I get my credit in on the 22nd. This is it. I'm gonna put this on my card.
I mean, I've never considered canceling my subscription to Audible because it's just nice to say that I try to be careful about my money, but it's nice to know that, well, no, I already have like a book coming to me because it's already been paid for with my Audible subscription. Now, of all the thousands and thousands of books, which one do I want?
Yeah,
and so
I'm
awesome. If you could buy books that way, I would subscribe to it that way, but you can't. But you can do it with Audible, and that's what I'm doing.
Audible.com. You can now listen, by the way, on the website. So that means on a Chromebook you can listen. Of course, it's got a great app for iOS, Android, Windows Phone, Windows. I don't think there's a Mac app, but you don't need a Mac app. It's just awesome. Audible.com/MacBreak. Your first book is free when you go there right now. And the other thing is books you keep forever. So even if you cancel in the first 30 days, you don't have to pay anything, but that book is going to be yours. I have now more than 400 books in my library. I've been an Audible member since 2000. And that means I have this great audio bookshelf that I can listen to at any time. It's so fun. Getting a little behind, though. I've got the new Neil Stephenson, Seven Eves, and I really want to read that. I've got, what else? Oh, I'm in the middle of the 3-Body Problem. Almost done with that. And then the sequel, The Dark Forest. There's just so many great books. Some health books I've been listening to. One that just really transformed, I think, is my thoughts about living into this last third of my life. It's called Younger Next Year. Highly recommend it. I can just go on and on and on. Audible.com/MacBreak. Get your first book free. Look at all these books. So many good books. So many good books. All right, time for our picks. We just got a book pick from Andy, so let me give you a chance, Rene Ritchie, to even the score. What's your pick?
So you and I are big fans of the Hue light bulbs, Leo, and I just picked up the new HomeKit hub for the Hue light bulb. So now I have complete Siri control over my the lights in my house, and I might have a bit of a problem. I was going to show you. There's this great app called Home. It's not an Apple app, but it's an app called Home, and it interfaces with HomeKit, and it lets you have complete control over all the HomeKit apps, HomeKit accessories in your house. And you can set up homes and rooms and scenes. And I have, I think, 13 or 14 lamps on this now. But once you have them set up, and it took me about, they walk you through the process of moving your old bridge lights off. Basically, you plug both bridges in at the same time. It scans one, copies the information over to the other. Then you disconnect the old one. You go on with the new one. Super simple. And now,
so you will want to replace your old Hue bridge with this HomeKit bridge, right?
Yeah, for 2 reasons. One, because the HomeKit bridge is secure, and one of the big things about HomeKit is they wanted to make sure that it was absolutely locked down, so that there's no point of infiltration on your home network. But you can do things like, "Hey Siri, turn my lights red."
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
"Hey Siri, turn my lights purple."
He has, by the way, seduced Serenity Caldwell into doing this, too. She says, I resisted the pull of Philips Hue's lights for so long, and then they got a HomeKit bridge.
And it's so great. I can say, "Hey, Siri, turn my lights white." This is not the cool part, but I didn't say it properly. But, "Hey, Siri, turn the lights down 50%.
Sorry, Rene. I wasn't able to find any.
See, that's the one downside, is that it doesn't work every time still, and I hope frankly, the server-side team is working on that. But I walk through my house and I say, "Turn the lights on in the bedroom, turn the lights down 50%, turn the lights off." And my phone doesn't have to be with me anymore, and I don't have to think about light switches anymore. And if it's the middle of the night, I can say, "Hey Siri, turn on the bathroom lights," and the bathroom lights just come on.
Oh, that's nice.
So it changed colors. You can set up scenes like Serenity has hers saying red alert, and then everything goes red, and she can say stand down, and then everything goes back to normal again.
My challenge at this point, though, is I also want to use it with my Amazon Echo, and I don't think the HomeKit works with the Echo. Right?
No, they're different systems. Like they can work, they can both work. So I don't think there's anything stopping.
Oh, okay. I can have them both. Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's like Android Auto and CarPlay, where if you plug an iPhone in, CarPlay will work. If you plug an Android phone in, Android Auto will work. The device itself is agnostic, and that I think is really best because some people really want open solutions to everything.
I do,
and it's sort of like Vulkan versus DirectX versus Metal, and that doesn't really let you have stuff that's perfectly tuned to the hardware. And I like this because Google's going to have their version of this available soon too. But it means that if I have a bunch of Apple stuff, I know it's locked down to all that stuff. If I happen to get an Android thing, I can use it on that. It's just using Google's protocol instead, and and it can still give me a completely integrated experience. And I think that's the best of both worlds.
What does Crash the Compound do?
That's what I see. That's my favorite thing. Because they have these built-in Cs now where you can say like Siri good night, and it makes sure all your doors are locked, all your lights are off, everything else is set for you to go to sleep at night. But I always like that from the West Wing where they say crash the compound, and then everything just locks down. And with HomeKit on iOS 9, you can say anything you want. Like when you say red alert, everything could lock down if you want. Crash the compound. All those things are great. And you can also do triggers where if you walk in and your doorknob goes and then the motion sensor goes, it knows to turn on the coffee maker and start warming up the oven. So they're starting to add all these layers of intelligence. And it goes back to this, when I first saw Siri announced, I wrote this article called Contextual Awakening, where we always had these nightmarish dreams of the future where artificially intelligent robots would, come for us. But we're not getting that sort of artificial intelligence. We're getting this cleverness where my lights aren't really, they're not alive, but they can do things for me. And because of Siri, they understand the context of what I'm asking for. There's sequential inference, and there's all these little tricks that make them smart and make them do things that are helpful to me without me worrying about them overthrowing me and taking over the house.
Until they get sentient, and then you're in trouble.
They don't need sentence, it's just helpful. No, it's just helpful. Like I can walk through, like I can just say game on, and it'll turn the TV on, it'll turn the lights to the right setting. And I know Georgia has it all set up so that when she's watching Walking Dead, it has different lights than when she's watching Game of Thrones.
Oh, that's crazy.
It's just fun, Leo. Like you make your environment suit your entertainment.
Guys are such geeks.
But you
have to buy this specific HomeKit bridge. They have different bridges, right?
Yeah, so there's two. They are, I believe, going to do a discounted version of the bridge for people who already own it. I am totally impatient, so I bought a new starter kit because it was the only thing that was shipping immediately. Okay. But you can do that. The problem we have right now, it's both a problem and a benefit. So I just bought a new bridge, and that means that all the existing lights I have work. But Serenity pointed out she has 4 bridges in a tower right now because she has the Sonos bridge and the Hue bridge and the Lutron bridge and another one.
Oh, yeah.
But eventually, all of this is going to go into devices. Like the Elgato devices, they have all the logic needed to run them in the actual device. Yeah. But that would mean if, for example, if I had 13 old light bulbs and I wanted them, and the technology was located in the light bulb, I'd have to buy 13 more light bulbs that are much more expensive. So ideally, that's where it'll go eventually. We won't need the hubs, but for now, the hubs are a really economical way of getting it started.
And now, the Hues have a new bulb, a $20 bulb called Lux. Is that just a lower wattage bulb?
Yeah, they have a wide variety. They have ones that are basically just white lights now. That you can control the intensity of the white light. I never understood
that really, but okay.
Yeah, and if you go to Hue.com, they have all sorts of specialty lights. Okay. Sorry, Philips Meet Hue. They have all sorts of specialty lights and things now as well. And you can tell because the old bridge is round and the new bridge is a rounded rectangle, so you can physically differentiate them, which is helpful.
Good. All right.
But I really like it, and I can't wait. Yeah, that's the new one. I can't wait for more stuff.
Color Ambience Starter Kit.
Yeah, it's I can't wait for more stuff to just, once you start using the stuff on Siri, you don't have to use it. It's a convenience unless you have accessibility needs, and then being able to use Siri is a huge advantage.
Right.
But just being able to just tell what I want the house to do. And because iOS 9 now syncs with iCloud, as long as you're using iCloud Keychain, you can do this remotely as well. You don't even need an Apple TV as a hub anymore. You're just using your iCloud kit. And if you have visitors, you can give them guest access. So it's getting kind of robust now.
Cool. Hue.
And it's nerdy, Leo. It's just nerdy awesome.
Very nerdy. Well, the nerdiest thing you said was having different lights for The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones. That's nerdy. That's definitely.
If you're watching The Abyss, you want it all blue. If you're watching Star Wars, you want Tatooine sunrise. I mean,
life's too short for me to be doing that. I got enough problems. Andy Ihnatko, your pick of the week.
Quick pick. Well, we talked about the spec candy shell grip case, so I'm going to make that a pick. Because again, every time I almost don't care what phone I have now, so long as I have it in a candy. I've had 3 different phones over the past 3 or 4 years, and they've all been in candy shell grip cases because they're so good. But a tip. I published something last week about counterfeit technology you can get on Amazon and eBay. Just a tip to be really, really careful whenever you're buying something, particularly if it's a consumable like a battery or a memory card. There is a lot of it's something that's being sold as an official Olympus camera battery if you're a model of camera, or an official Kensington or Kingston memory card. There's a lot of counterfeits out there. If the price of one seller is a lot less than the actual list price, that's a warning sign. If you're on Amazon and it's being sold by a seller that only sells like 4 different kinds of memory cards and it's not being sold directly through Amazon, be worried. The only way to be really safe is to make sure that what you're buying is being sold by and through Amazon, because they're a lot more strict about their own products than what they sell through other sellers. The good news is that if you do get stuck with something that's counterfeit, and you'll know it, I wrote this column after realizing that one of my Olympus batteries would only last for about 40 pictures and usually would die at absolutely the worst moment. It's not until then that I actually looked at it really closely and said, oh, I have 3 Olympus batteries. One of them has kanji text instead of English on it, and that's the one that doesn't ever work. The good news is that if you do buy counterfeit stuff through Amazon, they have just tell us you're not happy with it. We will give you a refund, and then it becomes our problem, not yours. If you buy stuff with eBay, that's a lot sketchier. They will act more as an intermediary than as a, hey, it's our responsibility to make sure you don't get stuck with counterfeit stuff. So there is actually a lawsuit now between eBay, targeting eBay and PayPal, alleging that they are knowingly helping people to sell counterfeit merchandise to consumers. And so that was just filed a couple months ago. So if you want to be really, really safe, go through Amazon, and once again, make sure you're buying stuff sold by Amazon. And like I said, if you know that an Apple MacBook charger lists for $99 and it's being sold by these guys for $43, there's probably a reason for that.
Yeah, I find it very difficult sometimes to tell. And I've had shenanigans pulled, even stuff that's Prime, which means it comes from Amazon warehouses, but it's sold by somebody else and fulfilled by Amazon. Right. And even there, you can have shenanigans. So you got to be really careful.
Fulfilled by Amazon means that, again, they didn't procure it. They're just simply acting as the shipper. And a lot of these people also do work through Amazon Prime. What you're looking for is look for the legend that Amazon that the item is being sold by Amazon, not just simply shipped by.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, that's not a guarantee, but again, they're a lot more reliable. And again, it's a big problem, particularly with memory cards, because it'll work for a while, and then there you are at Disney World, and the one memory card you brought now does not work anymore, and took 2 days worth of vacation photos with you. So,
but the good news is, if it's sold by Amazon, they really stand behind their stuff, and I've never had any trouble returning stuff.
As a matter of fact, even if it was sold by, even if they were only the shipper of it, the fact that you bought it from an Amazon account means it's our problem, not yours. As a matter of fact, they credit your account immediately as soon as you file the report. You just have X number of weeks to actually return the item, but you get that money back immediately.
I find them very good. Yeah, I find them very good. Andy Ihnatko, Chicago Sun-Times. Great to have you. Thank you always. And blame Canada for that hat.
I mean, maybe the stupid socialist internet service that.
Yeah, Rene, Ritchie's actually in Canada, and I'm glad to have you on with your colored hues.
You don't have Canadian colors. You can have with one Siri command. It's like,
Hey Siri, turn my lights red.
All you need is red and white, right? There you go. It's a little more of an orangey, but that's okay.
Stand on guard for thee, Leo.
That's pretty good. I gotta say that. Renee's at imore.com, a great place to go if you want to, just the how-to guides, the variety, the quality of the writing, and, of course, the best staff in the world, and Rene leads the charge there.
Oh, and we were lucky enough to get Michael Lopp from Rands and Repose on Debug this week, so he's going to be talking about, he was previously running the Apple Store at Apple, and now he's Chief Technology Officer at Pinterest, and he's going to talk about managing humans.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, smart guy.
Oh, neat. That's in the podcasts, and you've taken it off the masthead. You have to go to the hamburger menu to find podcasts, but you'll find them, and there are a lot of good ones. Renee's got a whole network going here, worthy of your attention. IMORE.com.
Thank you.
We do MacBreak Weekly, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time every Tuesday. We begin the Tuesday with MacBreak Weekly, and I hope you'll begin your day with us. You can find it at twit.tv/live. If you can't be here live, though, you can always be here after the fact, because on-demand audio and video of every show we do is available on our website, twit.tv, in this case, twit.tv/MBW, or you get it in your podcatcher like iTunes or whatever it is you use, your podcast app on your mobile device as well. Please subscribe. That way you'll hear it every week. If you'd like to be in studio, we'd love to have you. Some nice people in our studio today. Thank you for coming. The second shift's here. The first shift left, and now the second shift's here. Tickets at twit.tv if you'd like to join us. Thanks for being here. Now get back to work, because you know what? Break time is over.